Social grants will increase by around 30 rands effective from April, while the social relief special grant will continue for a further 2 months. In his budget speech last month, Finance Minister Tito Mboweni announced expenditure on social grants will be reduced by 2.2% in the next 3 years. But Social Development Minister Lindiwe Zulu says even though she understands the fiscal constraints Treasury is facing, the fiscal constraints that Treasury is facing, her department would have preferred a full inflation-linked increase to social grants. The minister joins us now via our video link to expand more on her thoughts. Minister, it's great to have you on the program. Thanks so much for making time. Perhaps let's begin with what I've already alluded to. You know, when the minister announced the 30 rand increase last month, some people raised eyebrows, but many others were deeply gutted. Is that a sentiment you share?
Using that word makes it look like, you know, a really, really deep disappointment. It was a disappointment, but it was an expected one, as you, the fiscals, but of course, for us, it was the issue of cuts that were across with not much consideration, especially for the poor, because as the Department of Social Development, we believe that the struggle for the poorest of the poor continues, and it's not just about the Department of Social Development. It's about overall government's approach to supporting the poor. So we continue to engage, we continue to really raise the voice in as far as supporting the poor are concerned. And when you talk about inflation rate, we consider the fact that prices go up, everything goes up, and when you look at how much has been given in addition to what is already there, it doesn't really help the poorest of the poor, but we appreciate and understand the current constraints that the government is facing.
Yeah, and those constraints come at a difficult time for your department too, don't they? I mean, they're in a context where there's increased dependence on the country's social grant services, whilst budgets are said to be cut within the next 3 years. How are you going to negotiate these conflicting needs, for lack of a better term?
Well, for me, firstly, it's about us ensuring that our beneficiaries are the people also who appreciate and understand, because it's not about the minister and only the department understanding. We've also got citizens who we must go out to the citizens and explain to the citizens why the situation is such. That's a tall order, I know, because you need to talk to beneficiaries in general. But I think that when I look at the response that we see, I'm not talking about the response that comes through interviews I'm talking about people who are on the ground that we meet on day-to-day basis. Many of them understand, and many of them actually do wish they could do other things for themselves other than to always entirely depend on the social grants. Many of them are already beginning to say, what else can we do, Minister? Can we talk about gardens around our homes? Can we talk about other support that we can do as communities supporting each other? Can we also look at what the private sector is capable of doing in supporting? We actually do talk to the private sector, and we talk to NPOs and NGOs, who, by the way, we also give them money. And I think you must be aware that the Department of Social Development per year spends 7.6 billion rands in supporting NPOs that are on the ground supporting our communities. So when we look at the budget, yes, we wish we could have gotten more. We wish the increases could have been more, but we have to be realistic about the situation and say, what else can we do in order for us to augment the support that we give to our communities? And obviously the focus is on the poorest of the poor.
And Minister, let's speak a bit more about those beneficiaries. And I'm hoping, you know, for this part of our conversation, if not it entirely, we can be as open and frank as you can be. These grants have been extended again. That's the COVID-19 relief grants. But the administering of these grants has left a lot to be desired, and I'm putting that mildly. We've seen snaking queues month after month, to a point where I'm willing to go further and say it is actually an erosion of people's dignity for them to have to queue outside post offices at length in the sun for days at times. There have been promises from SASSA and your department that this would be fixed. How far are we with getting that right?
Let me first correct something. For those that are receiving the 350 rands as social relief of distress, none of those people had to go to the SASSA offices for queues because we used technology in order to make sure that we process the applications and up until the person is paid. That's the first thing.
Yeah, I'm talking about it at the post office, Minister. The lines are at the post offices, and I'm sure that is something we can't deny.
Yes, I'm coming. Yeah. If you can just give me a chance. I'm coming to there to say that the lines that you see at the post offices is one of the things that really I am not entirely happy with. I can never be happy with people standing in queues that long, especially the elderly, especially people with disability, and especially young mothers who are carrying very small babies. So the plan that we have as a department, together working with the SASSA grant, SASSA itself, is to say what else can we do to reduce the number of people that go to the post offices or go to SASSA offices itself. Let us have alternatives, alternating, so that in specific days you focus on one type of a grant or the other type of a grant. So that it's not every day that people go for different things, both at the post office as well as SASSA itself. In fact, we have made our presentations to the portfolio committee which has been satisfied to a large extent of the plan that we have to make that change. And today we are meeting the Minister Lindiwe Abrahams and myself, together with the teams. We are meeting today because we're saying to SASSA, let's look for other options of payment so that we avoid these queues. But also it's not about just the queues. It's about once the queue is there, what services do you give to the people, the ablution facilities, the management of the queue? I think in the few weeks you're going to see a big difference from what has been happening in the past. And lastly, may I also indicate that part of what has created the long queues is the fact that we have not been working at full capacity, both as DSD and SASSA, because we need less people in the offices. And so the services, because of COVID-19, we've been forced to work with less people inside the offices. And I think that you can see that the levels have decreased. We are now at level 1, which therefore means that we are going to be able to go back to the original plan that we had of ensuring that we are full capacity in our offices, but of course still being conscious of the fact that COVID-19 is not gone yet.
Minister, I hear that, but it is going to be cold comfort to many people who've actually heard all of what you've said before and are still dealing with the same situation on the ground. Is it really fair to cite restrictions around the lockdown for reasons why this has been a prolonged issue, when in fact we knew how many people had applied for the 350 Rand grant and how many of them are eligible and therefore are likely to rock up at a post office? Okay, let me ask this question. Since the promises were first made, what has actually happened to try to reduce these long queues at post offices across the country?
What has actually happened in reducing the queues, as I said earlier on to you, was that we avoid having people coming for all the grants in one day. We have staggered the way people have to access this, but also remember that it's not just ourselves as SASSA and my department that have to deal with this. It is also the post office itself. And that is why I'm saying to you, we are having this meeting, and we've had the meetings before, in any case. And of course, the post office has also raised the same question that they are not operating at full capacity. But what we are raising with the post office is the fact that some people go to the queues and then at the end of the day, they are told that there is not enough money and therefore they have to come the following day. These are the things that we want to sort out. And I think we have apologized to our beneficiaries and recipients that we're not happy with what is happening and we are doing something about it. Hence, I'm saying to you, in the following weeks to come, you will gradually see the changes that need to happen, including ensuring that even when people are in the queues, at least we've got to bring more chairs. We've got to make it a little bit comfortable for them, even if they're standing in the queues. They shouldn't be standing in the queues. We must supply them with chairs so that they can sit down. In fact, in most post office, you'll find that the post office itself has tried to manage the queues in that way by ensuring that they make it a bit comfortable for people. But ultimately, when all is said and done, it's in the future in changing the number of people that have to go to the queues, because technology is there now. We've seen that in the 350, nobody needed to go to no office. People applied, and we paid. Most of the people that we paid, they never went to stand in queues for the 350. Most people have been standing in the queues for other social grants.
All right. Well, you know, the queues I've seen have really been a sight for great distress. So I'm hoping we'll finally be able to sort this out before this COVID-19 grant actually is terminated. But let's move on, Minister, for the interest of time. Another issue that I just have to ask you, pardon me, has to do with a matter that's been in the public domain involving former Minister Bathabile Dlamini and issues around the payout of her pension. The allegation is that there was a contract that was used for security services, and questions are being raised about the legitimacy of that contract. SASSA is now looking to recoup the money. In some reports, it appears that the minister herself, the former minister, is actually saying that it should be your department that actually pays out that money. What are the facts around this issue, and what is your response to that?
The facts are that, yes, there was a threat to the minister, not only to the minister, but also to one of the staff members.
Yeah, her spokesperson, yeah.
The facts that, yes, there was a procurement of a security that needed to secure the two of them and their children, by the way. Yes, it is fact that SASSA did pay the money. Yes, it is fact that we are now the SASSA is in court with regard to trying to get that money back. Yes, we are in conversations at the moment, because remember, all these things happened before I came into the department. And I've said to the department as well as SASSA, I need you to break down to me what exactly happened, where and why. And SASSA has already done that. I've had the conversation with the CEO of SASSA. We are looking at what really can be done in the situation, because, yes, the minister is correct in saying, you are expecting me to pay, and yet my pension is being held. And the issue, SASSA is saying, SASSA is not the one that is holding the pension of the minister. So I'd rather I come back to you, because I care. I will come back to you. I'd rather come back with the matter when I've got all the facts in front of me as to what exactly happened, where, and what, most importantly, what is to be done about it. We need to find a solution, right, because it is stressful both for the minister and Ms. Oliphant, but also SASSA also is saying, on the other hand, we need the money paid, because the Auditor General, on the other hand, is on our back saying this was fruitless expenditure.
Lindiwe Zulu, thanks very much for your indulgence on the AM report this morning.
My
We really
pleasure.
appreciate it. Lindiwe Zulu is the Social Development Minister.